Hi, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, thanks.
Cool. So let's go back to the start and your involvement with this project. So, were you at all familiar with the MCU and Loki and Endgame and all that stuff in particular before you took this role?
No, I wasn't that familiar. It was really right before we started filming when I kind of met with Tom Hiddleston, and he kind of walked me through a lot of the mythology and kind of explaining kind of Loki's whole story.
That's quite funny to me because in the show, you have a lot of expositional dialogue and you have to explain an awful lot of what the TVA is and the world that Loki's in. Was that a challenge then, trying to get your head around all these things you were saying when, it was all incredibly fresh to you?
Well, it was even the stuff that Tom was. We sort of joke about it being called the Loki lectures. Those were kind of crucial couple days that we spent because the stuff that he said about Loki would actually kind of work its way into some of those scenes that we had together. Because I am supposed to be an expert on Loki. But with the whole TVA, and it's always a little bit of a dance to try to make it sound, not so much like exposition.
But yeah, I'd like to get an idea of that because they are gripping scenes. Like they're just you two sat in a cafeteria discussing things. How do you make dialogue scenes with Tom Hiddleston so exciting? Obviously, you're working with Tom Hiddleston, which definitely helps.
Yeah, that helps. But I think that we didn't quite know because they were sort of long scenes that we filmed, over the course of more than a few days, and so there is a little bit of kind of, oh, is this going to be compelling for people just to watch two people sort of sitting across from each other talking? But I think that the script was pretty good. And then being able to sort of show him the stuff that I'm saying about his life, hopefully will make it, gripping.
I mean, it does. And Mobius is a very interesting character, this sort of detective who's then taking Loki under his wing. How did you build that performance? Because in the comics, very different sort of character. Where did you look to for inspiration?
Well, I think, Kate, the director, I think they had kind of an idea maybe to have a mustache, and then we kind of landed on sort of, the hair being the way it was, and then just kind of the wardrobe and the sets. I mean, the sets I felt like were some of the coolest sets that I've ever been on, and just visually, feeling that sort of Orwellian kind of weight behind the TVA. That helped to kind of get into character.
Yeah, I was talking with her earlier about the sets, and like it's amazing how much of that is just real, there, tangible. How did that sort of impact your experience? Because when you're doing a Marvel project, you think green screen, you think high scale, but this sounds like a much more traditional, much more exciting way.
Yeah, I mean, there was green screen and stuff sometimes, but those sets for the TVA, even sometimes when I wasn't working, I would come by just to take a look because they were very kind of interesting, and it had that sort of futuristic, but also kind of retro that I think Kate kind of wanted the whole look of the show to have.
You've obviously, worked with Tom before, so you've got a bit of creative history. What was it like picking up? And you talked a little about the Loki lectures, but more generally, just building that patter, because the relationship between you two is absolutely fascinating in the show.
I think that that's always just sort of a little bit, you never know how it's going to go, kind of working with another actor. And Tom and I just felt, even with, such different backgrounds, somehow we're on the same page with, kind of how we felt the scene should go. And also just very open to, if he had an idea or if we wanted to try something, and Kate kind of encouraged us. So, I don't know. It came pretty naturally.
Have you been following sort of the release of WandaVision and Falcon and the Winter Soldier and the hype behind them? Has that sort of been something that's been quite interesting, knowing that you've got Loki, this special little thing coming soon?
Yeah, it seemed like both of those were huge, they got so much attention and interest. And, I kind of noticed that early on when we were filming this, just because of all the secrecy around the stories and the wardrobe and the characters' looks and stuff, which I hadn't been on worked on something where they were so protective. But then I began to appreciate how, sort of committed Marvel is to sort of trying to surprise people. And it's hard because people are out there trying to, they're very excited. And so they want to, see what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that, secrecy is something that's baked into Marvel and all this genre stuff, and it can be a challenge. Were there any points where you found it very hard to kind of keep the secrets? Do you have any sort of friends or family who were wanting to find that stuff out?
Yeah, I mean, it did. And sometimes just sort of with the wardrobe, I'm just sort of wearing, this sort of TVA kind of uniform. And is that, we're really trying to hide that, but that's what we were trying to do. And, I did become sort of, aware of, trying not to sort of, give anything away. And there's a lot to give away in this. So you have to be careful.
I mean, and you said, you've not done a project like this, you've not really embraced the superhero role before. It's quite exciting. Would you be tempted to go back and do another superhero project in the future? Has this kind of got your feet wet a little bit?
Yeah, I did kind of enjoy being a part of this whole world. And yeah, I mean, who doesn't want to sort of participate in one of these kind of MCUs, because there's, just what we're talking about, such a kind of passionate fan base.
Yeah, I'm sure you're going to get it in the next few weeks. If you could explain, without any spoilers, of course, for, the audience is looking forward to Loki, give them a feel of what you personally took from this project the most and what you find the most exciting about it.
I think sort of what it is that, Kate, the director, has talked about that sort of gray area that you're never quite sure if somebody is good or bad. And, we have that in real life where things are sort of more complicated, where, and the idea of free will and, is it, sometimes I feel like I have a lot of free will, and sometimes it feels like it was written 1,000 years ago. I think that the show kind of explores some of those kind of interesting existential themes.
Cool. All right. Well, thank you so much for your time. It's been great chatting this, and good luck with the rest of the show. I hope the release goes well.
Thank you.